A malcontented yuppie is at war with his own psyche, and I am Jack's complete lack of surprise at the results. Today's review is Fight Club from director David Fincher. Of course, one of his best known, most popular, most celebrated movies. One of the most popular movies of the last couple of years, actually. So let's talk about Fight Club a little bit. Of course, I have my little collection here of the VHS, kind of box selections, kind of cool stuff here, but whatever. DVD I love, really has a special place in my heart. One of the first DVDs I actually bought. As you can see, it's like kind of falling apart, but it's really cool. It looks like a secret package that's like come to your door from Project Mayhem or something like that. And it slips out, and Tyler Durden says, "Use soap." All right, Tyler. Flips out. We have 2 discs because, there's so much special features and stuff, a little booklet, how to start a fight, and, just talks about the making of the movie and some cool pictures and stuff like that. Back when a time when the more savvy studios were trying to really upsell DVD, make it seem, like an inferior format to view your movies on as opposed to VHS, and indeed it was. Even like something like, chapter selections was like shown as a special feature. Like, what? I can like just click a button and skip through the movie? I don't have to press fast forward like on a VCR? What the fuck? And they just don't put like the care into DVD sets anymore, needless to say, even to some Blu-ray sets, but what have you. And of course, there's the more recent Blu-ray, the 10th anniversary set, came out in 2009, obviously, probably the most available version currently. So that's my Fight Club collection. It's March on Demand. I'm taking your request for reviews. This request comes from XC81, I believe that's how you say it. Thank you very much for your recommendation. This is definitely a movie worth talking about, but it's always kind of, like for me, it's a tricky movie to talk about because there's like a lot to kind of mention about it. One thing in particular, I'll say this movie, Fight Club, really ushered in an important kind of winds of change, sort of, when it came to film fandom and film criticism. Because, you gotta figure, this was a movie, it had a big star in Brad Pitt, and of course Edward Norton had a good reputation as an actor, still, probably at the time, still kind of thought of as up and coming. Had a respectable, but not exactly bankable director in David Fincher, and just kind of a hard movie to market, I guess. So it wasn't a huge hit when it came into theaters, but it would become obviously something a lot bigger and more popular later, but at the time wasn't a big hit. Not like it won any big awards or anything like that. Critics were kind of hot and cold on it. Like, a lot of critics did poo-poo the movie, but that's where it kind of stood as this kind of change of fandom criticism, because of course 1999 we have people on the internet becoming more of a regular part of day-to-day life. So we have these people writing on the internet talking about this movie. We're young, we're cool, we're hip. We want to see a movie kind of like this. That's really stylish, that's anarchistic, that's chaotic, that's anti-corporate, anti-establishment, really kind of philosophical in a really sort of simple kind of way, kind of punching figuratively social norms and punching literally guys on the screen. Really cool stuff. Young hip stuff. The young hip film critics were talking about this movie. If there's an internet film critic that you still keep up with today, like your favorite online film critic probably came from that era when Fight Club was first being talked about. Unless, of course, your favorite online film critic is me. But it was like this thing, like we're young, we're cool. This speaks to our generation. The old dinosaurs on print media aren't gonna get it. They don't get it. This movie isn't for them. We're cool. Who cares what Mr. 50, 60-year-old writing in a newspaper is talking about this? Who cares what the morning news show Critic Corner is saying about that? Who cares what Gene Shalit has to say about Fight Club? Oh, Fight Club, I give it 2 stars. You'd have to fight me to join this club. I'm Gene Shalit. Good day. Nobody gives a shit, okay? Actually, I have no idea what Gene Shalit thought of the movie. Maybe he liked it. I don't know. I've lost half the people here. Like, who the fuck is Gene Shalit? LOL, hashtag Instagram. Anyway, young kids. What I'm trying to say is that this was a movie that kind of appealed to a hipper generation of movie fans. And where it stands today, like first kind of became a cult film, but now it really is just one of those known movies. Like if you are a film fan yourself, which if you're watching this channel, I would assume you consider yourself a film buff, or if you know other film buffs, they're gonna say that Fight Club is among their favorite movies, or at least they like it and respect it. So it's kind of this generation of moviegoers. So that's basically what I'm trying to say. So there's a lot to the movie, and I mean, I would say that there's a lot open to interpretation too. I mean, we have a main character who best easily is referred to as Jack, played by Edward Norton. He's the narrator of the film. He's living a life that's not so fulfilling. He is a consumer. He gets all this stuff from catalogs. He thinks, what kind of dining set defines me as a person? He's a yuppie, has the 9 to 5, wears the shirt and tie, but something's not right in his life. He can't sleep, and he begins going to these support meetings to just feel something. So he goes to cancer survivor meetings. He goes to brain stigmatism, brain infestation, whatever, meetings, things like that. But then, of course, it's interrupted by Marla. If I had a tumor, I'd name it Marla, played by Helena Bonham Carter. So that kind of ruins his, I guess, temporary solution to the problem. And then, of course, Tyler Durden enters the picture, and he begins Fight Club, and that's his new therapy, and it seems to be going pretty well until it gets completely out of hand. So there's a lot to interpret about how Fight Club goes about. Like, it is this, very destructive kind of mentality of only after we've lost everything are we free to do anything kind of philosophy. Like Tyler Durden, played by Brad Pitt, he's very much an anarchist, and it gets to a point where they're blowing up buildings, they're causing mayhem. Little tiny gags, escalate to terrorism, basically. So things get completely out of hand. So, I mean, there are some who may kind of view the movie and think, yeah, I like this kind of anti-corporate, anti-establishment, anti-bullshit kind of philosophy. There's a lot I can take out of this, We are not that Gucci ad. We are not our cars. We are not our clothes. We have to get our lives back kind of stuff. But I would say all that attitude is kind of a symptom of the main character's struggle as opposed to the solution to it. Well, it is hard to talk about the movie without talking about the twists, big old twists in the movie. So I'll say spoilers. I mean, if you got this far, I've already been talking for 10 minutes, for fuck's sake. If you've gotten this far, spoilers. Tyler Durden and Jack are the same person. Split personality. That's the twist. And I would say, considering Tyler's philosophy of the anarchy and all that stuff. I mean, people can see it that way. A lot of things in this movie, I'll say they're open to interpretation. There's a lot of satire in the movie that kind of gets mistaken for, truth or what the movie's about. But there is, funny stuff in the movie. Like, we see this grand epic shot where looks like something out of Lord of the Rings, except it's in a fucking garbage can, looking at an empty Starbucks cup and discarded papers and things like that. So you kind of get the humor in that, and there is a real kind of dark humor in those support sessions. So you have to have a wicked sense of humor to really, I don't know, dig the film in a certain kind of way. But I mean, one thing that really is, I don't know, kind of undeniable about the movie is that it is a love story. Watching it recently, I kind of thought, that's really at the end of it all. At the end of it all, that's what this movie is about. Because there is that crucial scene in the movie where Jack's his apartment has been blown up. We see all his stuff, all his belongings, all his material possessions that he treasured so much. Just in flames. We see a really funny visual of that yin yang table just completely charred up, which is well, Where is your peace now? But there's that crucial moment where he's asked, well, do you have someone to call? And he has Marla's number. He met up with Marla, kind of reached mutual terms with her, reached an understanding when it came to the meeting. So it's like, I could call Marla, but he also has Tyler Durden's number. So who does he call? He calls Tyler Durden. And I think that's the final decision that he makes that goes to this path of destruction, self and otherwise, where he finally does embrace his inner psyche of Tyler Durden. Where if he would have, I don't know, worked up the nerve to call Marla, maybe things would have been a little bit different. Because, I mean, both Jack and Marla, they are both kind of fucked up individuals, and in a weird kind of way, they are right for each other. So, without him recognizing that, he has to embrace this split personality in Tyler Durden. So his denial of that is what leads to all this stuff, all this fun with Tyler Durden and Fight Club and Project Mayhem, and almost getting his balls chopped off, which is always pretty scary. So I mean, there is that, but it does kind of reach a point where he does kind of recognize what he needs to do. He needs to stop everything. He has to make good terms once again with Marla, and kind of ends beautifully, I think, with the buildings collapsing. They're hand in hand. You met me at a weird time in my life, and then of course with Jack's Mischief, we see the penis subliminally show up on screen one last time, because we see a whole section of the movie is devoted to Jack's night jobs, whether it's in restaurants, peeing into the soup, or ejaculating into the crab bisque, or splicing the pornography into children's movies, things like that. So that's a good final joke to the movie. But and I'll say, when it comes to the twist, I'd say there's some, like I talked about this a little bit when I was talking about the Village. I think sort of these movies with these kind of twists, these big reveals, things like that changes everything that you kind of know up to that point, where the movie should still work kind of backwards as it does forward. So this is the story of a guy with a split personality who gets into all kinds of fuckery. But the reason why I think this movie works so well on repeat viewings, and why it doesn't depend on the twist, is that, I mean, well, for one thing, you could make the argument, well, there's a little bit of Tyler Durden in all of us, and he's really just embracing that, so that's what this movie's all about. But you could almost, if this movie were made a different way, or Chuck Palahniuk's, is that how you pronounce the name? I don't even know. Chuck Palahniuk's novel were written differently, and it was, say, not completely outright revealed, but maybe just somewhat sort of suggested that they were split personalities, that would still work the exact same way, pretty much. Like, it could have ended up being like one of those like big internet conspiracy theories, like, it'll blow your mind when you view Fight Club this way. What if Jack and Tyler are really the same person? Here are kind of the hints to it. So, I mean, I don't think it necessarily depends on that twist, on that reveal. So, I mean, there is that. And again, there's a little bit of Tyler Durden in all of us, and it's him embracing it. That's kind of that brings him to this journey, which I guess he's better for it ultimately, because he is finally able to take control of his life and calm down that devil inside him, basically. So I do think it's an excellent film, and it's open for interpretation. So that's just kind of the way I see it, but I know, there are a lot of different ways to see it. I mean, it definitely does have the high satire. It does definitely have a lot of anti-corporate, anti-social norm kind of stuff to it, which a lot of people have embraced and loved about the movie. And if you look into it that way, I mean, that's perfectly acceptable, because the movie invites that, I think. But I think, the Tyler Durden character, ultimately, I think should be viewed as the antagonist of the movie, not the hero of the movie. But what a great performance by Brad Pitt, by the way. I mean, he's so mischievous and so fun. like right from the moment we first meet him on the plane, he's like, and now for the crotch against the ass of the sexy stewardess, and we see him brushing past her and like doing a little grin. Such a great performance. Really, I'll say this is my favorite Brad Pitt performance, bar none. Not even close. I mean, he's done his drama movies. He's done his, sort of Oscar-friendly type of movies, Benjamin Button or whatever. Fight Club is where it's at. My favorite Brad Pitt performance. He's great. Edward Norton also really great. Still one of his best movies. Maybe only after, I'd say, Primal Fear and American History X. It's maybe 25th Hour too, but he's great in this. Just kind of this transformation that he goes through the whole movie is quite amazing. Like, he is this tame, timid office worker, then he becomes this crazy underground fighter, and we see him in the office, and especially that scene where he's like punching himself out in front of his boss, and his boss can like barely fucking believe it, and it's good stuff. Also, Jared Leto's in the movie. It's great seeing him get the shit beat out of him. Meatloaf, great in the movie, playing Bob. Robert Paulson, his name was Robert Paulson. He's great. And Helena Bonham Carter, she is superb in this movie. I'll say this is my favorite Helena Bonham Carter performance too, playing Marla Singer. Such a great character, I think. Such a perfect yin to Jack's yang, I'd say. So, I mean, I do kind of look at it as this love story, and only as kind of David Fincher could provide. I'd say even considering something like Benjamin Button, I'd say this is David Fincher's version of a love story. I really do. So I enjoy the film immensely. I think it's well worthy of the popularity that it has. Again, it wasn't a huge movie at the time, but it really, really grew, and it's become one of those rite of passage kind of movies. It's one of those movies where film buffs will say, yeah, man, Pulp Fiction, The Godfather, Goodfellas, Fight Club, 300, shut the fuck up. No, okay, but whatever. It's up there, it really is. I don't know how high up it is on IMDb's, top 250 or whatever, but I'd be willing to bet it's fairly high up on the list. So it's maintained its reputation for a reason. So if by any chance you haven't seen Fight Club and you watch this review, even though I've ruined the whole fucking movie, still check it out. A great movie, holds up splendidly, even though we'll see kind of a little bit of dated stuff like, a payphone, what's a payphone, whatever. He's ordering out of catalogs instead of like online. It's like my grandma uses catalogs still. But yeah, ultimately it still holds up, still feels kind of like about a timeless kind of struggle of the psyche, struggle of the mind, struggle to kind of find what you need. A really weird time in this character's life where he finally has to make some decisions. That's what it's ultimately about. This character could not make decisions, so he had to let his alter personality make those decisions for him. And guess what? He's out of control, and he's going to make some bad decisions. So sometimes you just got to pull the trigger, so to speak. So that's my review of Fight Club. Thank you very much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, give me a thumbs up. Comment, rate, subscribe, all that good stuff. Visit Derek237.com, and until next time, use soap.